everywhere. It's Saturday night.
Woohoo!
Welcome to the fourth episode of the HiFi Five. I'm Resnick, your moderator. Please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Our regulars are Danny Kaey of Sonic Flare and EMMLabs, Elliot Goldman of Bending Wave USA, and Jay Caceres of Jay's Audio Lab. Welcome, gentlemen.
What's up?
Okay.
Hey, when you like, you better smash that button like you mean it. You hear me?
We have a couple of topics just amongst us kids today. First topic, how will artificial intelligence affect the high-end audio industry? Who wants to start?
I want to start. First of all, I want to thank our guests, Mr. Lucas Nikos, for canceling at the last minute and leaving us without a guest. Now on to the show.
That was a good one. I like
Well,
it.
we advertised the guest and he's not here. And he didn't leave us any time to find another guest, which I thought was kind of crappy. And if you don't like what I say, I don't care. Okay. When I give my word on something, I keep it.
I agree.
Everybody that knows me knows that. And I would expect something different from other people. So, Lucas, it was great. We'll never see you, but thanks again.
Cheers to that.
Okay, AI. Elliot, what's your take?
You know, I asked a couple of people today about AI and what they thought it might do to audio. And I'm not going to mention them because I don't want to embarrass them, but both of them said they never used it and they don't think it's going to be much. But although I am far from an expert, what I read today, I think that it should really help in manufacturing. I think it will help find design errors in products before they come to market and make prototyping easier. I'm not sure, however, that a lot of this is going to be used at the ultra high end because basically these are small companies and probably not going to use the technology and still look at this as more of an art form. But I mean, I could certainly see it much more in mass produced products where they could, like I said, find errors or test things and do everything else quicker with some AI than without.
Fair points. Oh, I'm on.
What do you think?
So, look, I think that Elliot brought up a good point. I think you have to look at it from different perspectives of the industry and how they could possibly be impacted. So, to me personally, AI, I use it every day. Both Grok and Gemini are my two essentially full-time assistants, if I can say that, in my day job, so to speak, with EMMLabs, coming up with, press releases, wording for documents that I'm preparing, et cetera, et cetera. And so, and even before EMMLabs, even when I was still at Apple, although on the tail end of it, I was still using it to come up with all kinds of creative ways of wording something, preparing a presentation, et cetera. So I think there's the end user perspective of it. There is the, as Elliot pointed out rightly, the manufacturer's perspective from, hey, help me design this circuit, right? I mean, look, today on Grok and Gemini and any of the other AI formats that you want to pick, design me a, design me a single-ended amplifier. Boom, in 2 seconds, you'll have a design out, right? I could easily see, me uploading some documents and schematics for AI to start criticizing it and tearing it apart, to Elliot's point of, hey, find the bugs in this design. Where I think, frankly, the AI part will come into play is not today, but I think in a couple of years' time, when AI is going to be powerful enough to essentially impact the sound of the music that you're listening to, right? Hey, Grok, Gemini, whatever. Peter Gabriel sounds a little thin. There's a little too much of his S-ing. The bass is not what I want it to be. Can you goose it up a little bit and make it more what I want it to sound like, right? You know my preferences. You know what I'm listening to. Make it sound like that I want to hear it. And boom, AI will completely, totally do that in a nanosecond. I mean, you can already do that today with photography and video, and you can already do it with sound. In fact, it's just that it's not available for public use. So, what impact will AI have? Who knows? I think it could be huge. I really think it could be huge. Hey, turn Peter Gabriel into a Dolby Atmos mix. Okay, Danny, here it is. Boom. Right? No, but I'm serious. You're laughing, Elliot.
I'm only good because we're not going to go into that subject again.
I'm just telling you, that's what's coming. It's going to happen. It's going to happen because
I agree with you. I think AI could be really big. I think maybe not today and maybe not tomorrow, but you're right. I think eventually there'll be enough information available that somebody could say, hey, my favorite amplifier is X. Can you build me an amplifier that sounds better than that and cheaper than that? Okay.
Not even that, Elliot.
Let me finish. I think I'm using it now, actually. I made fun, but I hired a social media guy and I'm going to make video, and I don't want to film it with actors and a camera. I'm going to do it on AI because my concept could be done and it's easier and cleaner to do that. Where I see AI being an immediate impact in audio is in marketing and advertising, which is an area that the industry as a whole sucks. I mean, they're not very good at it. Okay. Nobody really cares about gigawatts and megabytes and all the rest of it. Present something that's interesting to the buyer that they might get interested in at looking at this product. I think that's a really big area that it could be used in.
Yep. What I was going to rudely interrupt you with, Elliot, forgive me. You can verschleimp me later. Hey, Gemini, I really like the way those new Goldman amplifiers sound. Tune my system so it sounds like that. You can do it easily, right? I mean, it's not even a question of if that's going to happen. It's going to happen. I can guarantee you. Hey, I like the way my Dart Seal amplifiers from the Swiss guys sound like that were produced 20 years ago. Make my room sound like that. Boom. There it is.
Jay,
Some guy made a comment that in 5 minutes AI can replace the show.
Jay, what are your thoughts?
Well, I actually have a little more context to add when it comes to AI. So back when I was in Florida, I had a customer of mine walk through the door, and he was interested in purchasing the Oppo 205 Blu-ray player from me. And I told him, I said, okay, I also have the Panasonic UB9000 for sale, which is approximately the same money, more or less. And, neck to neck in terms of performance, right? And he said, oh, no. I decided on the Oppo. And I said, how? I asked ChatGPT, and basically it recommended the Oppo over the Panasonic. So he bought the Oppo for me. I said, okay, that was the first time that happened. Then a few weeks ago, another person calls me randomly, and he's been on my website, and he was asking me if I had any phono stages. And I said, I do have some phono stages, and I named them out. Turns out that his speakers were Wilson Audio, Alexia V, and I believe it was Griffin Electronics. And so he says to me, one of the phono stages that I was recommending based on a lot of feedback that I've gotten, which I own and I haven't even opened, happens to be the CH Precision P10, right? And he said, what's interesting, Jay? That's exactly what ChatGPT told me this morning before I called you. The CH Precision P10. And so I would like to actually want to share the screen, if you can, Ron, share my screen with the audience so they can get to see what I am talking about.
I'm not seeing your screen. I'm seeing the Danny AI screen. How do I see your
You
screen?
have to stop sharing and then, okay, I'm going to present. Excuse me. Yeah. Okay. So I am going to, okay.
I'm putting on my AI glasses. Oh my gosh, it's Jay.
Okay, so I am going to.
There's a couple of funny comments.
Mike Levine. Gotta love Mike Levine.
Todd says AI could provide the show with a guest that doesn't call and flake out at the last minute. That's a good one.
I don't know why I'm not looking at this, trying to present it, but excuse me for a minute. Okay, here it is. Okay, I'll share it with everyone. So can you guys see it? Is it big enough for the audience to read? Should I blow it up a little more? Okay, so you just typed just now, 5 minutes ago, best phono stage for a Griffin Apex amplifier, Griffin Commander, and Martin Mingus Orchestra loudspeakers. And basically it took 21 seconds, gave me even some kudos on the system that I have, and it gave me the top recommendations for a phono stage. Griffin Siren, obviously, and this has to do with synergy. I'm sure that's what it's looking at, the synergistic effects with Griffin. And here it is, a CH position being picked out from the bunch. And a Zesto Andros, which it's a different type of sound. And so it actually pulls out based on impedance matching and other parameters what it deems as the perfect match for my system. Okay. And so I don't really know how it goes behind the scenes to really tie those dots, to really connect the dots, excuse me. But it does an interesting job. And I got to say to everyone that I would be curious to try those 3 recommendations myself with my system. And I think this is a perfect example of what I can see happening going forward. I mean, I will tell you this, for example, okay, and this is a completely different industry that I follow, bodybuilding industry. Okay, there's a guy right now on YouTube, and this is why I want to talk about this. He goes to bodybuilding shows, right? And there are judges that judge that are judging the physiques, right? Well, he's now using ChatGPT and literally uploads the images of these bodybuilders on the stage competing. And ChatGPT can actually break down the physique and tell you which one is the better bodybuilder. That guy is getting flamed like you can't believe. He's getting destroyed for using ChatGPT, but he's actually telling everyone, you guys think I'm full of shit. This is the future. A lot of things will pass through AI going forward because it eliminates one key factor, and that is the bias effect. Okay, ChatGPT is not.
I don't agree with you. The information that they're collecting, you're assuming that it's not biased because wait a second. When AI first came out, you could ask the first question and it'd say, show me pictures of German soldiers in World War II, and they were showing you women and men of color and all that stuff because it was programmed wrong. That wasn't true. Okay, so if the algorithm has bad information, it's going to make bad decisions. Now, those recommendations they gave you, they could be great. I'm not saying they're not, but this was a collection of information put out there by somebody, whether it was a Ron Resnick review or a Danny Kaey review or something from WBF or something from the Absolute Sound or whatever. They collected it. It's not impartial, and it's not listening to those things and making its own decision. It's just collecting information. Well, and granted, it can go through a lot of information. No argument.
So Ron, put up.
Can I give you my thoughts?
Yeah,
yes.
Go ahead, Ron.
I use Chat and Grok all the time. I live on the thing. I often check the same question on both. I've used it I did not go to electrical engineering school over the weekend, so I know nothing about designing high-pass filters and Zobel networks and things like that, but I put in the exact details of my system, every component. It draws forth all the specs of all the components. I put in my sonic preferences. I talk about the specifications of the components, and it generates a high-pass filter for me. I ask it for recommendations for capacitors and resistors. It tells me the differences among Dueland, Mundorf, every excruciating detail. I think it's amazing for that. Secondly, I think one impact it has on high-end audio is because we can ask somebody other than dealers these questions, I think it has the tendency to erode the value of dealer advice. In my experience with these things, the more information you give it, by far the more comprehensive and accurate answer it spits out. So I think it's amazing for electrical engineering things that you wouldn't have the competency to do remotely yourself. And I think it's great for something like getting a sense of cables. It's one thing to bring in 2 preamps, but there are hundreds and hundreds of cable companies. It's a complete morass. I add in my current system. It draws forth the input and output impedance of every component in the chain. I talk about the kinds of sound I personally subjectively like, and it can compare a dozen different kinds of cables, for example, speaker cables, and narrow down 2 or 3 that you might want to actually audition at home. And that kind of takes I think it's frankly, Elliot, more impartial than a dealer giving you that advice.
Well,
so those are the kinds of things
wrong there, but I mean, I don't know what parameters it's using, and it's certainly not listening to this stuff. And again, I'm not saying it's not good. But to me, and again, I have not tried this, but it would be like saying to ChatGPT or Gronk, whatever it's called, okay, prepare me a beef stroganoff that's better than Thomas Keller and tell me how to make it, and I'll make it, and maybe it'll be good, maybe it won't be good, but I don't know that it's better than, I don't know that the French laundry makes that, but that's kind of my point.
Give it 10 years. When robotics are available, and it'll prepare one that's going to be better. I can guarantee it.
And I'm not saying you're wrong. Again, this could work. I haven't really done any serious homework with it, but I do believe in some degree. I understand what you're saying, that it's less or more impartial, but it's still partial because the information had to come from somewhere. Okay. And as we know in the world today, a lot of information out there is not correct.
Well, I think
it draws forth so much information from so many sources that tends to lower the variance of lower the variance of bias.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I'm saying. It's not biased. That's exactly the point I was trying to make. And so, of course, there is no listening experience. We understand that. It doesn't have any seat time, as I like to call it. We understand that. But my thing is the speed at which it can capture feedback, information from forums, and absolutely. So on. It's time that a lot of us don't have anymore. And we don't have the time to read 300 threads on different forums. No one, and then you hear comments from a lot of unqualified people that are lingering on forums that don't know shit about high-end, let's be honest.
Yeah, but if I actually feel more gets it from the forum.
Hang on a second. Let me jump in here. First of all, I would venture to say that most people that are arguing against AI and how is it going to know what it's going to know and not know and all that, they're completely clueless as to how AI actually works and what it actually does. And let me give you an example. You can right now subscribe to Gemini from Google for $200 a month, and you can get up to 3 minutes worth of video creation time. So you can create video content that is literally indistinguishable from a Hollywood movie production for 3 minutes through Gemini.
Yes.
Boom, done. Did Gemini ever go to a movie theater? Mike Levine, I'm asking you, buddy. Did Gemini ever sit in a movie theater seat watching a movie like you, Mike Levine? I'm asking you. No, it didn't. But it does it, and it knows how to do it. And so, what's hilarious is that these comments that I'm reading, and not only here, I mean, I see it throughout the day and throughout the week. You have no idea how AI actually works. And, if AI can create a Hollywood sequence for 3 minutes with me just giving it word text input, you bet your bottom dollar it's going to be able to recreate a sonic experience any which way I like it. Of course it will. And to Elliot's point earlier about, hey, prepare me a meal that's better than Gordon Ramsay's meal or whatever. Add robotics to it with, the AI robots that are going to be popping up in the next 10 years. You bet you it's going to do it. So, I mean, come on, let's get real here. I mean, of course it's going to work. Of course it's going to do it.
We're running kind of long on this. Shall we continue to the next topic or any final thoughts?
Yeah, good. Middle finger. Mike Levine, go educate yourself, buddy.
Okay, we are moving on.
Danny, have some more wine, Danny. The next topic will be multi-channel music.
Yeah.
In the meantime, look, I think that what I don't know enough about, and now just a comment to Danny is,
this will be the last comment. I want to move on.
I'm doing an AI movie, okay, and my guy paid for this, and so far we've done 15 seconds. But it came out great, okay? It really came out great. I think that if AI can see, I don't know, it can absorb movies. It can understand how movies are made. It can understand how actors look and how they talk and how sequences go, okay? Just like AI can compose music because it can analyze everything. I'm not saying that someday it can't analyze and rate the performance of audio equipment. However, okay, audio equipment does not work in a vacuum, which I've said a million times. We don't listen to components, we listen to systems. And so it's a little bit more complicated with a whole lot less information available. Can it do it? Probably. Can it do it now? I don't think so.
Okay. I want to move on to the next topic, okay?
Yes.
Next topic. When listening and evaluating components, what is your goal or target?
Okay, I can go first. So for me, when it comes to evaluating components, it's hard, first of all, to evaluate a component unless you have been living with that system for some time, right? And you're keeping all variables the same except that new component you're evaluating. For me, the most important part of evaluation happens to be, can that new component, let's say, just hypothetically, loudspeakers, okay? Do I feel like I'm reminiscing when I'm listening to music? If the answer is yes, okay, we're on to something. Number two, I'm not trying to bring the performance in my room. I'm trying to leave the room psychologically when I listen to music. I'm not trying to stay in the room. I'm trying to leave the room. And my mind begins to think about, for example, where was I when I first heard that song? Was I a little kid? What was I doing? What was I playing? When I connect like that with a component, then I know I got something special in front of me. Those are in a nutshell, that's what I believe in.
Who next? Elliot, shall I go? I'll go, or Danny?
Yeah, you can go. I'm not sure. Whatever. It's okay. Go. I'll go. You can go.
Okay.
I'm still thinking.
This is actually one of my favorite topics. We talk a lot about this on What's Best. So I believe there are 4 primary, but not mutually exclusive goals of high-end audio, in no particular order. Recreate the sound of an original musical event. Reproduce exactly what is on the tape, vinyl, or digital source being played. Third, create a sound subjectively pleasing to the audiophile. This is the most untethered from any reference, just whatever sound you personally idiosyncratically like. And fourth, create a sound that seems live, which is kind of related to recreating the sound of an original musical event, but I think it's different. These are the 4 main objectives I believe we can conceptualize for the hobby. I personally focus on recreating the sound of an original musical event, which is again close to the objective of creating a sound that seems live. For me personally, I implement that by focusing on this very simple question. A lot of people use live unamplified music as a reference. I think that makes sense. But for me, I have a simpler version. When I am comparing 2 components in my room, I'm only trying to figure out one relatively conceptually simple thing. Which component gives me a more convincing illusion of a live person singing to me in my room? If I can figure that out, Yes, I'm substantially a single issue voter on that topic, but if I can figure out which component makes me feel like there's a more convincing illusion of a live person in the room, that's the component I personally prefer.
So it's opposite to me. I'm looking to leave the room. You're looking to stay in the room.
Well, there's the question of they are here or you are there. That depends partly, in my view, on, for example, if it's a classical concert, I may want to be transported to the venue. I want to feel like I'm in Walt Disney Hall. If I'm listening to Girl with Guitar, I may want to feel like the girl with guitar is transported to my little club, my little listening room. So for me, that depends on what I'm trying to achieve and the nature of the underlying music.
Okay. All right. Who's next?
I'll go.
Elliot?
I'm a Harry Pearson disciple, the original Absolute Sound. I'm not joking, Dan. I'm very serious. I mean, Harry's viewpoint was the sound of live, unamplified music in an acoustic space. And the way I go about listening, evaluating, and even setting up systems, and I've said this online a million times, is I start from the small stuff that I feel I have an opportunity, whether it's a solo voice or a violin or a piano or other things that I've spent a lot of time listening to live. I like violin, I like acoustic guitar, and I've sponsored concert series in the past, and I've sat, 8 feet away from the stage. And so when I try to do that, and if I can make that sound real, kind of fool me, then I work out from there. I also believe that an audio system, and people say this to me all the time, well, I want my room to sound like Carnegie Hall. Well, good luck with that, okay? I think that a really good audio system can be a time machine, and it can, if the information is on the source that you're playing, transmit you to Carnegie Hall or Red Rocks or the LA Coliseum or wherever it is. And that portion, I think that you can do a really good job with. But I believe start with the small, non-mixed, not crazy amplified, not EQ'd, not the way most records are made. Try and start with the simple things and get that right. If you can make a violin sound right, or a female vocalist, or somebody playing an acoustic guitar or a piano, then for me, that's going to have a better chance of creating this illusion for me.
Interesting. I think that's probably of all the categories that Ron had listed out, I think that's probably the most applicable one, because, well, for the simple reason that outside of the genre of, unamplified live musicians playing in a room for you, everything else, as far as a recording, unless it's a 2-channel recording only, which really there aren't any today being made or haven't been made in decades. They're all multi-track recordings. That it's kind of like going back to what we were talking about 2 shows ago when Shannon was on. It all comes down to what is the mixing guy at the console thinking of putting together as far as a mix of, hey, I'm going to put the hi-hats here, the drums over there, I'm going to put the piano in the middle, I'm going to put the guitar over there, I'm going to put the effects channel up over here somewhere. So, it kind of quickly falls apart as to, being able to recreate that, because you weren't there and you're not in his mind and in his head of, recreating what he thinks it should sound like. So, my position on this is kind of like, if I'm listening, it really depends on the music material I'm listening to. If I'm listening to an orchestral recording, I want it to sound one way. If I'm listening to, a gal or a guy with a guitar, I was just playing Christy Moore before we got on the show. In a live, he was doing a live concert in, I think it was in Belfast. It's just him and his guitar on stage, right? versus, if I put on Boris Blank or Yellow or Kraftwerk or any of these guys, and it's all purely electronically made music, looped together, put together by a guy on a mixing console, it's going to sound totally different. So I guess it all just depends on what you're listening to and what you're listening for.
So what you are saying is your goal is whatever you like.
Pretty much.
I'm not making fun. I'm being serious.
Depending on the music.
There are people that, and this is what I like, and that's what I want. There are those people that are trying to look, if the four of us in reality today, in most cases, we're going to go out and make an album, okay? And you're in Maine, and you're in California, and Jay's in Texas, and I'm in Florida. The way a lot of it's done today is I'm in my home studio, and I'm laying down the guitar track. And Jay's in Texas, and he's doing the drums. And Ron is in California doing the female vocal. And Danny is, that was a joke. And Danny is in Maine playing the ukulele, okay? And then we take all these tracks and we send it to California, New York, or Nashville to a producer who's going to put it in the studio, and he's going to add this, and he's going to add that, and he's going to put a little of this in and a little of that and make this louder and this lower. And so you've got 4 sets of mics, 4 sets of recording devices, 5, okay? And then it's mixed and put out and sold. So I don't think any of us could ever predict what the end result of that's going to be. So absolutely. I don't try to do that. Okay, like I said, I start small. If that's good, I'll live with the rest of it. If I get the instruments to sound right, I'll live with the rest of it. Nothing is perfect. There is no perfect, because there isn't one way in which stuff is recorded.
Absolutely agree with that.
Okay.
By the way, Michael Andrews had a great comment. My favorite topic. Hey, Michael, I do like surround sound and I do like multi-channel. But anyway, that's a whole different conversation. But to his point, a good surround sound setup will do that. And he's absolutely correct. There's absolute validity in things like Dolby Atmos, which, today is becoming quickly the dominant standard. There's absolute validity in that. So again, to me, it all comes down to what are you listening to? What are you trying to recreate? And what's the equipment you're going to have on hand to make that happen?
Let me mention one thing there. When I talked to my dear friend Pat Kelly, who's on the chat here, he said, you guys are all wrong about that stuff, because when we think about multi-channel, we're thinking about smaller speakers. We're not imagining 5 Divin noblesses as our multi-channel system, are we? So if we were to imagine 5 Divin noblesses as our multi-channel system, I might be a lot more susceptible to believing that that would indeed be better than 2-channel if we make the multi-channel exactly the same quality as the 2-channel we're talking about. I think we tend to assume when we're talking multi-channel, it's going to be like shitty little, in-wall speakers or something. Sure. But if you map the 2-channel to the 5-channel.
I've done that. Mm-hmm. I did a system in South America with Focal Grand Utopias where we had 7 of them, okay? And each one driven by a Halcro amplifier and stuff. And it was fun, okay? Again, I saw what Pat said. Yes, that is amplified music. What I'm judging a system not based on amplified music, but most pop music, and I'm sure other things, classical, jazz, not all of it is made live to mic. Obviously, very little of it today. And a lot of it is done in different places, and it's amplified. I'm not saying it's not amplified. That's not where I begin, but that's most of what we listen to because we don't have any other choice. There is nothing else.
Do we have any questions to take from the audience?
I am looking at the moment. You can scroll. All of us can look at different questions.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm looking at some of the comments they're saying they're listening to the musical performance and whether they're connecting to the music. So in a way, I guess it's somewhat related to what I was saying about being transported out of the room and really reminiscent. When you're connecting, a lot of times you reminisce on different things, right? So I think that it's a little bit of the same, more or less, of what I was saying. But a good point was when you're doing critical listening, it's kind of hard to connect, if that makes sense, because you're turning on your critical thinker hat. And oftentimes that doesn't go with the heart, if that makes sense. I hate to put this in a different context. It's like when you fall in love, you don't really think about it. You just feel it. It goes, right? It's
Well,
just,
that may be the way you
it may not make the most sense, but you feel it. And so
that
Well,
may be
in
the
a
way
way,
you critically listen.
my personal focus is always emotional engagement. I know about slam and dynamics and detail and resolution and low noise floor and black background. I just never think in those terms. My only barometer is emotional engagement. Is Stevie talking? Is Stevie singing to me in my room, or is she not? And I'm thinking about, audiophile glossary attributes.
If I'm sitting there, which I don't do anymore at all, because I used to do it when I was young, trying to ascertain the differences between product A and product B, you get burned out from it. Okay. When I sit down, I want to just get lost in the music, and I'm still critically listening. Okay. I've learned how to listen. Okay. Because listen is hearing plus focus. But if you're, Jay, you're comparing a lot of equipment, and I'm not saying that's wrong or right. It's just what you do. So if you're comparing all the time, you're listening to amp A versus amp B, that's not listening for pleasure. That's listening for to hear the differences and for work. I said this online. I don't do that. Okay. Right. Occasionally somebody sends me a gizmo to throw in my system, and I throw in my system, and I don't treat it any different than everything else. I don't A/B. I don't pull it in and pull it out. Okay. I stick it in the system. I give it a couple of days to settle in, and I listen. And either I'm engaged, more engaged, or less engaged. But I'm not saying, well, the XYZ Finnegan pin is adding 3 dB at 6K, and I don't like that. I did that 30 years ago and got burned out on music. So it's.
I mean, look, guys. One thing that I from my perspective, never fails is I have yet to listen to any hi-fi gear replicate the dynamics of a live drum kit, the dynamics of a live piano, the dynamics of a live cello. I'm sorry. Okay. I just haven't heard it. I've heard all kinds of systems, but the dynamic realism, which is one of the things that I really listen for in a hi-fi, we're getting closer, but we're still miles away.
I want to ask you a specific thing. Have you ever happened to have heard the Avant-Garde Trio G3 with 2 or 3 pairs of bass horns and Wilson Benesch infrasonic subwoofers?
I heard something similar at a hi-fi show. And yes, that approached it. I'll give you that. But when you look at the sheer size of that setup and the volumetric level of room that you need for something like that, or that kind of a setup, I mean, gosh,
no, but that's a totally different question. I was trying to submit to you an example of a system that achieves exactly what you're talking about. Forget about the size, the cost, the blah blah blah. Those are extraneous issues.
But okay, so let me qualify it then by saying in your room. Cop out. Well, no, right, I'm kidding. But
yeah,
okay.
So I heard that system in Jacob's room, which is a giant room. I heard that system in a friend of mine in Beverly Hills who moved to Connecticut recently into a new, even bigger room. But that system gets the closest I've ever heard to what you're talking about.
Okay, I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
Next time you're in Germany, I'll send you over to hear Oliver's system. He's got an enormous room with the Vin Majestics and 6 Sovereign subwoofers.
Love them Sovereigns.
A big giant mono. I'm not going to talk about brand amplifiers because it could change any day. And a big time turntable and a a full high-end, state-of-the-art WADAC system, and yeah, he's got a custom-built room where he designed the acoustics, he designed the electric, and he spent now 2 years dialing this in. And I'm not saying anything is perfect, but I mean, it can certainly blow your skirt up, and you can definitely feel it. And
yeah, I agree with Pat. I agree with Pat. We should not be
the right music.
I like Pat's comment. We should not be selling our own book. Okay, on to the music. On to the music segment. Ready? Danny, take it away.
All right, hang on. Where are my records? Oh, there they are. So today, by the way, I do want to say, even though that, for the first couple of times, I really felt all verklempt because most of the comments about the music segment were all like, gefilte fish, get out of here. Let's talk more about equipment. The last show, there were a couple of people.
Don't listen to schmatters.
Yeah, exactly. The schmutzers are all verklempt. The last show, there was actually a couple of people on the YouTube comment section. Thank you, by the way, that actually appreciated the time that I take in curating the 2 records that I present to you guys each freaking show. So thank you very much. I sincerely appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Elliot.
Did you spend more time picking the records than combing your hair?
That's what my mom used to say. All right. So first up, these are, of course, available digitally as well as on vinyl. Boris Blank, his latest record called Resonance. So Boris Blank, to those who may not know or are maybe first-time visitors to Boris Blank, he is basically one half of Yellow, the Swiss pioneer electronic music band that, frankly, has shaped my entire teenagehood up until now. And I listened to their first album, and I was like, gosh, what was I, 13, 14? And I mean, these guys were on it, right? They were so ahead of their time. And, influenced by so many other musicians, the Beatles, Kraftwerk, et cetera, et cetera. They created their own electronic machines to create this music and the soundscape that they're performing. But it's absolutely exceptionally well recorded. Each one of their albums is very well recorded. This is Boris Blank's second official album that you can get. Highly recommended if you want to listen to, dynamic slam, punch, resolve, soundstage. Literally, we just talked about it. A guy on a mixing console putting the images so far up and around that you're almost getting like a 3-dimensional soundstage around you. You can't beat it. Absolutely fantastic. Next up is...
Can I give you a comment? I listened to it.
Yes. Okay. Ooh, wait a minute.
When you give us these albums, I treat that as homework, and
holy shit,
I listen to each track.
Nice.
So I listened to the whole album.
Okay.
I knew it sounded familiar because I was abducted by aliens late last year, and as soon as they beamed me up, they were playing Boris Blank Resonance. So my opinion is it's very atmospheric, spacey, interstellar. Yes. I don't think Beethoven has anything to lose sleep about.
Yeah, I don't think they would, or I don't think he would.
So I did listen. I did like the song Resonance. I actually did like Resonance. That's particular track.
So when you say you liked it, like you liked it in a sense of, hey, I can get into this. You liked it in the sense of, yeah, this is nice, whatever, cool. Don't really care for it. I mean, would you listen to it again? Would you listen to more of that sort of stuff?
It's not really my thing. I mean, I think I don't do drugs, but if I did, that's the song I'd listen to.
Nice. Elliot, did you listen to it? I know you did.
I'll tell you the truth. I didn't really listen to it. I was too busy preparing for our guest that ended up not coming.
All right. Fine.
I was doing research on his product and asking people about it. and then the guy didn't show up. So I
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
listen to Boris.
So
I did listen to Natasha though.
all right. So next up is Vega Trails. So this is fronted by a guy called Milo Fitzpatrick. He's a double bassist from Europe, who created this band Vega Trails, and this album is called what is it called? Oh, Tremors in the Attic. Sorry, Tremors in the Attic. Available on CD as well, of course, or streaming. Very atmospheric sort of jazz, in a sense that you can definitely draw parallels to like electronic music, in the sense that the recording is such where you really get that sort of ambient atmospheric feel to it. But the instruments are all live, and his double bass is all live, and obviously not an electronic instrument. And so it's just great, low key, down tempo. It's a crowd favorite. Every time I play it at a show or for friends, they're all like, "Oh, dude, who's this guy?" And I'm like, you'll have to have your lunch with Milo Fitzpatrick. And that's it for the music segment today. The
Very
weather
good.
tomorrow, rainy and sunny.
Any questions to take or any final thoughts, and we'll wrap.
I saw a few questions there. They're asking if we're going to bring more guests, and I was responding to them.
Oh, sure.
Dude, you haven't seen me drunk, Ray Matches.
Yeah, people just want to know, and I just said probably until next year. But it is important that everyone watching is subscribing and hitting the like button, right? Because the more subscribers we have, the more willing, guests, right, that are going to want to be part of this podcast. So we need your support. We just got started. It's going to get better and better as we move forward. I can definitely assure you of that. And we're going to have some controversial guests at some point. It's inevitable. We got to mix it up, okay? We don't want to make this to be like, a choir, something very, boring. We need to we understand the audience that's watching us wants something different. And in order to make it different, we got to create some sort of controversy, right, up to a certain extent, of course.
But we don't want to do product shows. We don't want to do product shows, and we don't want to, blow smoke up somebody's butt about a product or something. I mean, bringing on a guest from the industry is great if we can talk about the industry rather than the specific speaker or amplifier. No
infomercials here.
Right. I mean, there's so many other places to do that. We don't want to do it. You can read about that in any of the magazines, and there are plenty of people that review product. We don't want to be reviewers. I mean, there are issues in the industry like tonight, like AI, or, what is your basis? And I like to ask reviewers that question, or even online when I'm talking to people, is like, everybody talks about doing something, but where are you trying to get to? What is your goal? I mean, to me, if you're getting in the car and you gas it up and you put snacks in and you packed up the bag and you're driving down the highway, but you don't know where you're going, you're never going to get there.
It's very much,
that's a Danny family vacation.
Hey, so Scott Wheeler actually suggested some new music. Hiromi, Silver Lining Suits, Rock, I'm With Her. I should put on my glasses. Damn it, I can't see anything without them. There we go. Oh my gosh. Shit, there's 4 of you here. Wait a second. Classical Yuja Wang, Shostakovich piano concertos. Okay, cool. New Art Pepper. Or Pepper Adams. Yes, I have that. Absolutely, Christy. That's a great one. I just got that in last week. Absolutely phenomenal. I really can't wait to see what these guys are going to look at reissuing next. From what I heard through the grapevine, they have quite the stuff planned to go through. So the record label is called, or the reissue label is called Gamot. I still don't know how to actually pronounce it. Is it French? Is it Flemish? Is it, who knows what it is?
Isn't that a product to clean your engine?
Yes, exactly. Smash that like button. Thank you, Audio Bliss.
Yes. Want to actually go ahead?
your music selection is way over your compadre's taste. Yes, that's generally the case.
I have a question for the audience. We still got a little bit of time before we hit that 1 hour mark. If you guys have any suggestions as far as topics, please let us know. We want to give you more of what you want to see, right? We want to make it different and interesting. And unfortunately, we have ideas, but if you're not watching them, what's the point? What's the sense of doing something that none of you want to watch? So any recommendations, any ideas, leave them in the comments. Even after this live stream is finished, you can always go back to the video, leave comments with any future topics you would like for us to talk about. And we're going to handpick them. And we're going to probably go around the table and give our input as unbiased as possible. And of course, if you're asking, really questions that are going to AK-47 some brands, we're not going to do that. Okay, so we got to make sure that we are pretty nuanced and have a strategy for this podcast. It is important, guys. So please leave them. Here's Scott Wheeler saying, discuss the state of art DSPs. That's one topic. Okay, that's fine. We can definitely look into that.
And Pat wants salacious gossip.
Get controversial. The reason that I started watching Jay was he was very honest about the Wilson speakers in a few videos. Thank you, Christy. Appreciate that. So they want to get, and I, by the way, guys, those of you, I think we got to 50 people at the peak. And I want to let everyone know that, we need that support in order for us to really see that you're consuming our content, right?
Yeah.
When we start seeing an uptick, we get a better feel and direction as far as what we need to be talking about. So the more likes we get, the more people get engaged, the more we know, okay, analytics are telling us this is what they want to see, this style, this type of topic, or this approach, right? We want to get rid of the fat. We're not trying to give you the same fat that other channels are feeding you. We want to get to meat and potatoes for all of you watching us. Remember that. But we need your help.
And you can write to us for guest suggestions, topic suggestions at the email HiFi52025@gmail.com.
Right. So that's another email you can use. We can look at, Ron, you can show us what people are saying. We can discuss amongst ourselves what makes sense for the podcast. But at the end of the day, what it boils down to is, we want to grow, but we need your help. No question. We can't do this with no one watching. It's a waste of our time, period. Ron, talk about Ron's new music. Okay, there you go.
I don't come up with new music. I come up with music everybody's heard for 20 years. So that's why Danny does the music segment.
Ron's music segment, Sheffield Audio Lab.
Patrick is saying that what other fat? The other channels are sleeping aids. I mean, it's like watching paint dry on the wall, as Elliot likes to say all the time. That's how entertaining, right? Some of them are. And so we wanted to do something different and fun. And I think we're going to get better as time passes. We're still trying to figure out the whole, YouTube space as a group. I have the most experience here, but it is very difficult. So obviously in a group of 4, and we were originally thinking about doing 5. Okay. We still don't know what that 5th chair looks like. If anyone is going to occupy it, maybe that will happen. Right now it's empty, it's vacant. But that doesn't mean we may not have someone later down the road.
There was supposed to be somebody sitting in the chair.
Enough with that. Right now, the concept is that we like, honestly, viewers, we like the idea of the flexibility of not having a permanent 5th person. We like the idea of the guest chair sometimes being occupied like the 2 middle shows, sometimes not being occupied, and it's the 4 of us. So the 5th chair, frankly, in my view anyway, gives us that flexibility, not to always be obligated to have a 5th chair as a guest.
By the way,
I think the 5th chair is going to be good in the future when we do want to talk about a specific topic, and maybe we can bring in somebody that has expertise on that topic to join us.
Right.
Just industry people for the sake of having them.
Right.
No offense to the girl that was on the week 2, but the audience didn't get into it, and we take responsibility for that. And maybe it was a bad choice. Or maybe we had bad questions. I don't know. But the fact is that if we wanted to have a discussion, I'm just saying this, for example, about turntables, then maybe a guy like Michael Fremer would fit. If we're trying to talk to somebody about recording technique, then, maybe somebody else would fit. So That's what we'd like to do. As far as the industry, I think there's a lot of things to talk about. We have a whole list of subjects that we're planning on doing. We thank you all for joining us. Subscribe and like. Send some hate mail to Ron if you want with topics.
Next week, Elliot and Danny are going to join us live, hopefully from the Capital Audio Fest. So it'll be an interesting episode.
I'm looking forward to it.
By the way, yes, real quick, Christy had the most important question of the evening. Danny needs to discuss what he's drinking each show. Christy, this one's for you. This is a lovely bottle of red called Freak Show. You can get it just about anywhere. It's inexpensive and it's absolutely fabulous. And I figured how fitting a name for a bottle of wine for the four freaks of us that are here on this show, debating and discussing audio and audio non-sensory, et cetera, et cetera. I do want to add one more thing, actually. As far as each of us knowing each other, I think I read someone somewhere is like, how do you guys all know each other? Or maybe that was the last show. Ron and I met probably 20 years ago in LA at a HiFi show. I think we were introduced by a mutual friend of ours, if I remember correctly. And we've, been friends throughout all this time, so going on 20 years. I met Jay, since he's the first up on the screen to my right. I met Jay at Elliot's grand store opening with his lovely wife. He was in town doing a live stream. And of course, that's where I met Elliot as well, which was last June. So cheers to you guys. And super excited about all the cool stuff we've got planned for the future.
Hey, Ron, I just wanted to show you one thing before I go. I know this is one of your great memories of being turned on to HiFi. I happened to find this on eBay, and I bought it from England for $80. But my mentor, and I don't know if you could see that, but that Mike Kaey hanging in space over the IRS in the back room of Lyric, which I know was one of your great experiences, and for an awful lot of people in our age group was really where they got turned on to high end.
Okay, and join us next week, next Wednesday, and Elliot and Danny are going to be broadcasting live from the show. Have a great week. Join us next Wednesday. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Later, guys.